Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another of your spooky sessions with me, your host, Hedda Gold. Now, tonight I'm going to be reading you a short ghost story, and then I'm going to start with a new series from the author-writer Zethero. All of the stories that I read, whether it's been about Sarah, or any stories, in these particular episodes coming up, are all his own work. They are not linked or akin to anything else. They are purely his own work. So with that going forward, I hope everybody is well. I do hope that, you are starting to enjoy your weekend the best way that you can. And what I would love for you to do is to just sit back and relax, and I will begin to read you these stories, which I really do hope that you enjoy them. The first one, the short ghost story, and it is very short because the first episode of the new series from Zethero is quite long, and I don't like to go over our time too much. So the ghost story tonight is called The Ghost Cat. And you never know, one of my cats may put in an appearance, whether they go behind me sniffing and licking candle flames like one of them did a few weeks back, or they'll walk past me meow, or they'll cause a door to creak. Lord knows, they might just put in an appearance, you never know. So, without further ado, I'm now going to read to you The Ghost Cat, and I really do hope that you enjoy it. I'm not quite sure how it happened, honestly. One day he was curled up on my lap, purring and content as ever, and the next he was just insane. I wish I could tell you how he got that way, how it all started. I wish I could have made him better, healed him in some way, but wishes don't come true the way we hope. It all started when I saw him lying on the sidewalk. My cat was known to just lay around as per what most cats do. They just do lay around, don't they? But the way he lay there was just unnatural. I went outside to see if something was wrong. He wouldn't look at me directly in the eye. His focus was all around him, but not on anything specific. I didn't quite know what to do, but I brought him inside and attempted to feed him. He wouldn't eat. He moaned eerily and he couldn't walk straight. I had no idea what was going on. It was as if he was possessed. We couldn't afford a vet, but we tried treating him at home as the best we could. But it hit too fast. One day we came home and he was walking aimlessly around a tree in our yard, just around and around in circles. It was never ending. He'd gone insane. I tried calling him, but he could never look straight at me. He couldn't eat or drink anything. He could hardly walk. It pained me to see him this way. Soon after, about a couple of days from then, my mum woke me with the news that my cat had died that morning. I cried like a baby, but I knew he was in a better place. Seeing as I was very close to my cat, I helped my mum bury him underneath his favourite tree, and that night I prayed for him. What I didn't expect that night was to be greeted by his familiar meow. I had another cat at the time, but I knew it wasn't him. This meow sounded faint and had a slight echo to it. Disregarding it, I crawled into bed and turned off my light. At around 1 or so in the morning, I was woken up to the feeling of something heavy laying on my feet. It was warm too. I moved one foot. The lump meowed when I did so. Figuring it was my other cat, I turned on the light, but there was nothing there. I had no idea what was going on. Suddenly, the lump of warmth seemingly jumped off my bed, and a thump was heard on my floor. And soon after, my door opened on its own, and there was a sound of little paws on the floor outside of my room. To this day, I still believe that my cat visited me that night, the same night that he died, as if to say goodbye. I will never forget that moment. Never. So what do you think of that? We've all lost beloved pets. Some of us have been visited by them afterwards, some of us haven't. And it's an awful thing losing a pet, because it's part of the family, isn't it? Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Well, it now brings me to the first in your new series, because we left Sarah having been summoned by Amunda, and what happened after that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read to you everything from the priest's point of view, the one that interrogated her, rather. And this series is called I Am a Priest at the Vatican. We are going to summon a demon. It's written by Zethero. It's all his own original work. So I'm going to start reading it to you now, and like everything that happened, the same with Sarah that Zethero wrote, I know that you enjoyed that, so I'm sure you will enjoy the series too. So please sit back and relax while I read episode 1 of I Am a Priest at the Vatican. We are going to summon a demon. And I hope you enjoy it. I am a priest at the Vatican City in Italy. I was approached by a bishop today with something that has to have been a mistranslation. Let me explain who I am and why I'm here. My name is Father Edward Thomas. I was born in the United States and became a priest of the Catholic Church when I was 20. I am an exorcist. I am told that I am a very good exorcist, but I do not feel I am. Out of my nearly 120 exorcisms, only 25 of the possessed has survived said exorcisms. In all cases, the demon was expelled, the soul of the possessed saved, but the body can only take so much for so long. Most of the time I've come too late, and the family hasn't given proper medical care before my arrival. Yes, you just heard a priest tell you that if you're possessed, see a doctor first, and during your possession, I can heal your spirit and perhaps save your mind, but your body is still a physical thing. While prayer may expedite healing, your body still needs to be tended by a medical professional. And treat it like a temple, my children. I'm a spiritual professional, not a medical one. I can even recall an exorcism call when I arrived only to find a young man in question tied down to a bed, demanding to be released. The reason the family thought the young man possessed. The possessed was suffering from gender dysphoria. She felt she was a woman in a man's body. I had her released by the family and brought to proper medical authority and medical health professionals. I felt for her. I did. Her family felt her condition so odd that they believed it was against God and she must be suffering from possession. Other illnesses will also get the ill-informed to call me, such as someone with seizures or schizophrenia. Misdiagnosis aside, I've always felt that an exorcism where the possessed doesn't survive is a failed one, but the Church disagrees. Despite this, I continue my work at the Catholic Church. I do so because I know there are less scrupulous priests who have the arrogance to believe they can heal in the name of God our Lord, as well as cast out demons. Such a way of thinking leads too easily into pride. An exorcist must be humble, honest, and pure. This is needed because otherwise a demon can feed off the exorcist's own sin and endanger the soul of the possessed. It's why the old adage calls for an old priest and a young priest, the idea that the young priest can remind the old of his place, while the old shares experience. I am somewhere in between old and young, but I'm called when the local priests cannot handle the exorcism themselves. The Vatican has called me more in the past 2 years than they have in all the time I was an exorcist before. I've even begun training more exorcists at the Vatican when I myself am not casting out demons. The issue that half of my charges have happened in the last 2 years is not lost on me. These are not false alarms or misdiagnosis. Demons are possessing people at a higher rate than normal, believe it or not. That led me to the letter I received for one Bishop Bernardo Ricci. Dear Father Thomas, your reputation precedes you. Father, I have reviewed your performance and your understanding of the unclean is beyond reproach. A specialised project has been brought to the Pope himself after the apprehension of a warlock who goes by the name of Immunda. He is in possession of a highly powerful artefact which we plan to use to summon a demon. You are being requested to lead a group of priests in charge of containing the creature. Please come to me as soon as possible. The Most Reverend Bernardo Ricci. My Italian must be off. That's how I read it, but that can't be. I mean, it must mean that this warlock, Immunda, has summoned forth a demon that must be sent back to hell. Frightening as that is, I know I must hurry to the bishop to aid him. Despite their knowledge, having worked in the field with these creatures gives one a different experience I cannot expect a typical bishop or even a cardinal to fully grasp. Again, I do not put much stock in my own skill, but rather fear that their own pride may empower the creature. I arrive at the bishop's office, announce myself, and he greets me in earnest, immediately taking me down several long hallways. Father Thomas, thank God you made it here swiftly. Well, you caught me while I was providing lessons to my fellow priests, Bishop Ricci. I received your letter and came as swiftly as I could. I say it in Italian. I speak it far better than I can read it, apparently. The bishop stops at the end of the long hallway and then places his crucifix into an indentation in the wall. He turns to me and gives me a serious look. I see an intensity behind his greying eyes, the wrinkles around them in his forehead showing great concern. Thank you, Father Thomas. Your expertise is required for us to truly address the situation. As the hallway opens into a secret passage, I'm guided in by the bishop downward. I adjust my bag over my shoulder. In it I have all the tools I would normally use for an exorcism, as well as some that I have never needed to. Bishop, this Immunda, what object has he managed to find? I ask. The bishop continues down the hallway, LED lights illuminating as we head down several corridors. He claims he found it in the United States, in a city in New Hampshire, of all places. I'm confused. New Hampshire? He found an object that could allow him to summon a demon. The bishop says, it could do far more. We are still studying it. It contains an incredible spiritual power, the likes of which we have never seen before, he explains. We enter a huge complex down below in what was once a catacomb. Now it appears to be a prison of some sort, a very modern prison. There's plexiglass holding cells, and in each cell is a self-proclaimed witch or warlock of some sort. The Vatican is not in the habit of restraining your average citizen. Holding a ceremony where you celebrate the marriage of the sun and the earth during the summer or the winter solstice is a benign thing to us. Heresy, of course, but nothing we're going to hurl someone into a Vatican prison for. Not nowadays, anyway. These cells are reserved for only the most unclean. The witch in the first cell, for example, who hurls herself at the plexiglass as I walk by, has been imprisoned for sacrificing her children to a demon in order to demand he possesses her neighbour. She then planned to have her possessed neighbour impregnate her with his offspring. I cleared the man of the possession before she could finish her pact. The result, of course, was that she lost her wits and her womb, as she failed to meet the bargain of the demon. Well, that's the price one pays for breaking a pact made with a demon. Hypocrite, she shouts at me. You destroyed the sanctity of my marriage. She tries to spit at me, but it only hits the plexiglass and slides down the side. I ignore her. I ignore her as we move to several cells down. The purpose of the unclean are not to be paid much mind, especially those of a woman who would give herself purposefully to a demon. My fingers squeeze the golden ring on my finger, and I think of the Lord God and of his glory as we continue. We stop at a young man's cell. He has a straggly brown beard and long hair. He wears black robes and has very old talismans on him. I notice he has a necklace with symbols of each prince of hell surrounding a central symbol of the devil himself. Tattoos across his face also convey various pacts with numerous demons, most of which I've heard of. The man is oddly calm, sitting in the room, idly caressing his beard. Given his age, I assume he must be an apprentice. Such artefacts and carvings I've only seen on some of the most experienced of warlocks brought into these halls. This means he's dealing with powers he cannot truly fathom. He's young, I remark. You're wrong, Father. This man is almost 85 years of age, the bishop informs me. I look at him oddly, because no matter what, he does not look 85. The object he obtained, he claims, rejuvenated him. The bishop turns to a dais which stands across from his cell. On the dais, under glass, and illuminated with bright white LEDs, is a small red disc, no larger than 1.5 inches in diameter. Etched into it very weakly and recently, I notice, are various symbols of a satanic origin. That same object is what he plans to use to summon the demon. I look it over. The object is reddish and solid for the most part, but the edges of it are translucent, almost like red obsidian. He found this in the United States. He claims he found it via divination, that its power called him to a burned-down house where he found it in a garage, of all places. The bishop turns to me. The family of that home cannot be found. He motions to the object before us. It is concentrated angel blood. I give the bishop Bishop Ricci an odd look. Angel blood? Bishop Ricci nods, looking at the warlock. He calls it sanguine amber. I nod. So he took this from him when he summoned the demon? Bishop Ricci shakes his head. No, Father. He says he can use it to summon forth the demon. I look to the bishop, confused. So then we've stopped him, and we plan to purify this object? The demon gives me a stern look. No, Father Thomas. The Vatican fully intends to summon forth a demon. So, that was the end of part 1, my friends. It was very short. Now part 2, which I'm going to take a quick look at now. I'm going to check and see how long that is. I think this will probably take me another half an hour to read. So I'm afraid it's going to have to wait until next week. But it will be worth it, because I'll give you a little hint. Sarah's back. So I told you you'd see Sarah again. So you'll see her in episode 2 next week. Anyway, we've come to the end of our time together for our spooky sessions this evening. I really do hope that you've enjoyed the stories, and I do hope that wherever you are in the world, you're making the best of what we're having to endure right now, because whether it's for our own good or not, we just have to put up with it and endure it and make the best of it. And that's what I plan on doing, and that's what I do advise all of you to do. Make the best of it. And if you're working from home, make the most of that family time that you wouldn't normally have. Because when you're going to get an opportunity like this again, unless it comes to your holidays, make the most of being, whether you are a single person, make the most of that time that you can do all the things that you want to do in your own time. And if you're a single parent, make the most of your family, as well as if there are 2 parents. It makes no difference. Make the most of what you've been given. Because as I keep saying, everything happens for a reason. It's not until afterwards when we find out what the reason really is. But it's just one of those things. We can and we will get through this. So until next time, my friends, I want to wish all of you the best weekend that you can possibly have. And I want to send all of you my love, which I do every week. I do love you. I want to thank you very, very much for being here for the first of this new series of stories from Cithero. Very talented writer. And I want to thank you for watching, because I really do appreciate that as well. I do hope you enjoyed the stories. So until next week, I'll just say, take care, stay safe, I love you, and good night. Good night.